Hello, young scientists. Today we're going to learn about one of the most important processes on Earth, the water cycle. It's how water moves all around our planet over and over again. Think about all the water you see in oceans, lakes, rivers, and even puddles. This water doesn't just stay in one place, it's always on a journey. The water cycle is like Earth's way of recycling water. It ensures that we always have fresh water available, even though the total amount of water on Earth stays about the same. Understanding the water cycle helps us understand weather patterns and why water is such a precious resource. It's a continuous, never-ending process powered mainly by the sun. Let's break down this amazing journey into its main steps. There are 4 key parts to the water cycle: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. The first step in the water cycle is called evaporation. This is when water turns from a liquid into a gas, called water vapor. What makes water evaporate? The sun's energy. When the sun shines on water in oceans, lakes, rivers, and even wet ground, it heats the water up. As the water gets warmer, its tiny particles start moving faster and faster. Eventually, they move so fast that they break away from the liquid and float up into the air as invisible water vapor. Think about a puddle after it rains. If the sun comes out, the puddle slowly disappears. That's evaporation happening right before your eyes. The water isn't gone, it's just turned into a gas and joined the air. Evaporation also happens from plants. This process is called transpiration, and it's like plants sweating water vapor into the air. So, evaporation is the process where liquid water becomes a gas and rises into the atmosphere. It's the starting point for water's journey into the sky. Now that the water vapor is in the air, what happens next? The air high up in the atmosphere is much colder than the air near the ground. As the warm, moist air containing water vapor rises, it cools down. When water vapor cools, it changes back into tiny liquid water droplets or ice crystals. This process is called condensation. Think about a cold glass of water on a warm day. You see tiny water droplets form on the outside of the glass. That's condensation. The water vapor in the warm air touches the cold glass, cools down, and turns back into liquid water. In the sky, condensation is how clouds form. The tiny water droplets or ice crystals that form from condensation gather together to make clouds. Clouds are basically big groups of these tiny water droplets or ice crystals floating in the sky. The type of cloud depends on how high up the condensation happens and the temperature. So condensation is the opposite of evaporation. It's when water vapor gas turns back into liquid water or ice crystals, forming clouds. Clouds are made of tiny water droplets or ice crystals, but they can't hold on to them forever. As more and more water vapor condenses, the droplets or crystals in the cloud grow larger. They bump into each other and combine. When they become too heavy to stay floating in the air, they fall back to Earth. This is called precipitation. Precipitation is any form of water that falls from clouds to the ground. The most common form is rain, which is liquid water droplets. But precipitation can take other forms depending on the temperature of the air. If it's cold enough, the water can fall as snow, which are ice crystals. Sometimes you might see sleet, which is rain that freezes into ice pellets as it falls through a layer of freezing air. Hail is another form, which are lumps of ice that form in strong thunderstorms. Precipitation is how water returns to the Earth's surface from the atmosphere. It replenishes the water in our rivers, lakes, and oceans. Once precipitation falls to the Earth, it needs to go somewhere. This is the collection stage of the water cycle. Water that falls as rain or snow collects in various places. Some of it lands directly back in oceans, lakes, and rivers. Some precipitation falls on land. This water can soak into the ground, becoming groundwater. Groundwater is stored in spaces between rocks and soil underground. Water that doesn't soak into the ground often flows over the surface. This is called runoff. Runoff usually flows downhill, gathering in streams and rivers. These streams and rivers then carry the water to larger bodies of water. like lakes and oceans. Snow and ice can also collect in glaciers and snowpacks, storing water for long periods. Collection is where water gathers after falling from the sky. These collected bodies of water are where the water cycle often begins again with evaporation. So the water cycle is a continuous loop. Water evaporates from the surface, condenses to form clouds, precipitates back to Earth, and collects in bodies of water, ready to evaporate again. The water cycle is always happening, all the time, all over the world. It's a giant, natural machine that keeps water moving and available for all living things. From the smallest puddle to the largest ocean, water is constantly changing states and moving from one place to another. It's a truly global process. This cycle is essential for life. Plants and animals need water to survive, and the water cycle provides it. It also shapes our planet's surface through erosion and other processes. Understanding the water cycle helps us appreciate how interconnected Earth's systems are. The air, water, land, and living things are all part of one big system. Now that we've learned about the different stages, let's do an activity to help you visualize the water cycle. A great way to understand the water cycle is to draw and label a diagram of it. This helps you see how all the parts fit together. You'll need a piece of paper, a pencil, and maybe some colored pencils or crayons if you like. First, draw the sun in the corner of your paper. The sun provides the energy for the cycle. Next, draw a large body of water at the bottom of your paper. This could be an ocean, a lake, or even just the ground with some puddles. Draw some land next to your water body, maybe with some hills or mountains and a plant or two. Now let's add the stages of the water cycle. Start with evaporation. Draw arrows rising up from the water body and the land, representing evaporation and transpiration, towards the sky. Label these arrows evaporation. Next, draw some clouds in the sky above your land and water. These clouds represent condensation. You can draw small arrows pointing from the rising evaporation arrows towards the clouds to show how the water vapor forms clouds. Label the clouds, or this process, condensation. Now draw precipitation falling from the clouds back down to the earth. You can draw raindrops, snowflakes, or both. Draw arrows pointing downwards from the clouds to the land and water. Label these arrows precipitation. Finally, show collection. Draw arrows on the land, showing water flowing downhill towards your water body. You can also show water soaking into the ground with arrows pointing downwards into the land. Label the water body and the groundwater area collection. Make sure your arrows show the direction the water is moving in each stage. Your diagram should show a continuous loop of water moving from the surface to the sky and back again. Adding labels for each stage, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection, will help you remember the steps. You can also add labels for the sun, clouds, ocean, lake, land, and groundwater. Creating this diagram helps reinforce what you've learned. It's a simple way to see the entire process at a glance and understand how water travels through the environment. Keep your diagram handy as a reminder of the amazing journey water takes every single day. The water cycle is a fundamental concept in science and helps explain so much about our planet's weather and climate. It's a beautiful example of nature's continuous processes. Thanks for watching.